All right, cool. Alrighty, welcome back to the TWP podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, somebody I've been watching on TikTok for ages, one of my favorite channels, Brock Aho.
How you
Um,
doing?
is it Aho? Is that how you pronounce it?
Aho,
Aho?
actually,
Okay,
yeah,
cool,
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, sweet.
yeah.
Alrighty,
I get a
dude.
lot of aho. A lot of time it's aho, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a little less flattering than
yeah. I wanted
ho.
to try and avoid that one. Um, So, dude, did you want to just like tell us kind of like the sort of content that you make on
Yeah, I
TikTok?
guess. Yeah, I just well, mostly it's been just talking about near death experiences a lot of the time. I would like to talk a lot about like lucid dreaming and stuff, but I do a little bit, but mostly it's near death experiences what it's been, and some past life counts and stuff because those are always really cool, really
Mm,
interesting.
mm. So,
Um,
what was it that kind of started you chatting about like because I see predominantly near death experiences
yeah,
on
yeah,
your
yeah.
TikTok. But obviously there's a lot of stuff that's kind of related to that, like lucid dreaming and stuff like that.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
what started you to like explore that sort of stuff?
The near death stuff. I mean, I don't really know. I don't remember when I started being very. I mean, it's such an interesting idea, like
Yeah.
not a lot of people, almost die and then come back. So what people talk about is, I don't know, it's super interesting when they have experiences that are worth telling.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just it seemed like it was something people were interested in. I was just kind of trying stuff out on TikTok,
Mm.
and just stuff that I was interested in, just to see if other people would be interested in it. I haven't been doing it for very long though, really. I guess well, it's probably been about a year, I guess, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've always been really interested in like spiritual topics like meditation and lucid dreaming, and not just meditation for like calming yourself down, but what you can actually experience, spiritually through
Straight
those
up.
methods and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess just being interested in that really kind of it draws the algorithm gets you to near death experiences eventually.
Yeah, very true. Well, that's how it was led to you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
is there like anything in your life that happened though that like
Oh
made you
yeah.
like interested in spirituality and stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah. When I was a kid, I was probably like 8, I think. Probably the first thing really was I was always like really scared of the dark. I was always thinking I was seeing aliens or feeling monsters under the bed or whatever. So I had a hard time sleeping a lot of the time. Then when I was 8, I had an out of body experience that was pretty wild. It wasn't very long, but I remember just seeing this like a blue sort of being floating at the end of my bed, and yeah, I told
Right.
my mom about it the next day, and it was really cool. I don't know, it was really interesting. But then that obviously was a pebble in my shoe for many years, and I was like, I came from a really religious background, really conservative background. So people told me it was angels and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
it may be, but obviously that made me in my later years much more interested in just what would what actually was that, what really happened there. And it
Yeah.
was clearly like an astral projection. You know what I mean? I figured that out later.
Yeah.
So
Heck,
that's kind of what drew me to that kind of stuff. That was like the catalyst for me anyway.
do you think like that those like astral projection experiences and stuff like that are they like taking you to the same place that people can get to like in near death experiences, or are they like two like is there a whole bunch of separate things going on?
I don't know if you can. Yeah, I don't think you could say they're separate. I mean, they're not the same thing, obviously, but I think it's a similar space. I don't really know. See, this is what I wonder about with people who have a lot of psychedelic experiences because I haven't had many. I've smoked a little too much weed a few times and just gotten freaked out. But
Yeah.
I've never done any real true psychedelics, so I don't know. That's why I love listening to people talk about them because it sounds similar, to that well that one experience and then other experiences I've had, later on in life.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's
Yeah.
obviously very different.
I mean, I guess so, but it is crazy how many like similarities there are. And I think
Yeah.
like near death experiences are like way more, what would you say, like reputable to like normal people than like a psychedelic
Yeah, I don't
experience.
know. I'm not
Yeah,
really sure why. I
it
don't
is though.
understand why.
It is.
Probably
It's
just
like,
because most people haven't had them. I mean, like I haven't had them either. But it's easy for me to consider that they're just as like valid or real. I guess I don't know what you call it really, but
yeah, I mean, I guess you'd have to be open minded to get there though, because like, I mean, especially if you're
yeah,
like religious. if you hear about somebody having a near-death experience, you're like, yeah, they, you know, they obviously met God, they saw the angels. You can describe the exact same thing on like psychedelics and
Yeah.
be like, yeah, you were just getting your brain scrambled by chemicals. Like clearly
Yeah,
that's all
yeah,
that was going
yeah.
on, you know.
And yeah,
But
it's easy to rationalize. I don't know why. I'm not sure why it's so easy to do that because it's such an otherworldly experience, you know?
yeah, and I think as soon as you experience it, you realize you can't just like brush it off, brush it aside, because it's like
See,
everything in this reality, you're kind of like, you're just like defining it with your intuition. You know what I mean? Like you
mm.
have a dream and then you wake up and you're like, oh, that dream doesn't feel real now that I'm awake. This feels real. And
Yeah,
then
is it
like,
similar with I'm sorry, but is it
oh, yeah.
similar with like a psychedelic experience? Like when you come back, does it feel like okay, that wasn't quite as real as this, obviously. Or does it feel like more, I mean, obviously it's more impactful because well, just from people's accounts it seems that way, but how does it actually feel when you come back? Does it feel similar to a dream where like, you know, the reality of it kind of fades away or no?
So it's like strikingly similar to what I've heard of near death experiences. I've obviously never had one, but a lot
Yeah.
of people will say it feels realer than real. And that's why it's so impactful, because you
Yeah.
go there and it literally, like, with a dream, you'll see random stuff, you know, meet random people, and not much of it will make a whole bunch of sense. Even if there's like something really meaningful in that dream, there's no
Mhm.
sense of realness to it, especially when you wake up. Whereas with psychedelic trips, it's almost like they account for your reality. So they were like, you'll go there and they'll talk to
Yeah.
you about your life. They'll talk to you about the way reality kind of works, and it will make sense. And when you come
Yeah.
back, if you can remember what you were told, it will still make sense. And I think you have to have like a good memory for it, because a lot of
Yeah.
people, they'll like pick pieces here, pick pieces there, or they'll remember things that were said to them, but not necessarily what it meant. And so then when they kind of sober up, it just sounds crazy. But if you can
Yeah.
remember what you were being told properly when you're in the psychedelic trip, it will feel realer than this reality 100%, just like these near death experiences.
Yeah, that's so interesting because like I've spent a lot of time learning how to lucid dream, and I've had a lot of lucid dreams, and that what you're saying about if you can bring it back, it'll feel more real than this reality.
Right.
Like yeah, most of the time dreams don't really have that quality, but if you develop the awareness when you're there, it really does. It reminds me
Right.
of one experience I had in particular where I met this. It 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 wasn't like a normal dream character. It was like I don't even know how to explain it. It was like it, it was like you could when I was there with that being, they had like it was like they had a connection to realities. I don't even know how to explain it. It's really
Hmm.
weird. But
Yeah.
they told me some shit when I was coming out of the dream. I was like, fuck, I got to hold on to that, but I can't. And it just went
Right.
away. I was like, damn it. If I could have taken that back, I don't really know. They were telling me something that was very important for me. I don't know. It was very weird, but
Yeah.
it was like so big. I couldn't take it back into this dense body almost, you know?
Yeah, totally. I think it's the same. I think I've had a few lucid dreams. There was a time where I was trying to do like lucid dreaming, and it
Yeah.
eventually did get like really intense.
Hmm.
And I wanted to go further, but like I just got complacent and I never did. But like I
Hmm.
remember at one point, um the people I started meeting in my lucid dreams, they were turning into the same entities I was meeting on psychedelics, and they were
Really?
like, yeah, and they were like sharing the same sort of messages. And it's so weird, man. Like it's almost like this, there's this wink, like they like
Yeah.
give you a little wink about reality. It's like, just, you know, just pretend you didn't see us, sort of thing. It's really weird.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember this one experience I had. This guy dressed in like a business suit. It was so on the nose, but I was walking by him and he like looked over at me and he was like, "Hey, you're about to have a spiritual awakening," which I thought was pretty stupid, but as soon as he said that, I was walking toward this wall, and the second I got close to that wall, I just was lucid. It was like nothing triggered it really except for him telling me that. It
Yeah.
was and yeah, it was like a wink like you're saying. I don't know, it's just really weird. I
Yeah.
do think there's probably like those spaces probably connect at least if they're not the same space. I don't know. I
Yeah.
can't say because I haven't had psychedelic experiences. So
I think there's something there. Like it might just be like there's obviously a gap between you and your subconscious. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Like when you're in a dream, you can't predict what's going to happen. Like even when you're lucid dreaming, there's still like a whole lot of stuff out of your control, obviously.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, almost all of it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And that's what like the subconscious is creating. So I
yeah,
think, you know, when you're having like a psychedelic trip, or when you're lucid dreaming, maybe when you're having a near-death experience, you're probably like meeting a version of your subconscious. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah,
manifesting
yeah.
itself like differently, if I had to guess.
So what do you think the subconscious is then? Do you like the Jungian idea of it being like I don't even know what his collective unconscious idea really is, but
Yeah.
do you think it's something like more sentient than even we are? That's the idea I get of it. I don't really know. Like something that's, you know.
I might get you to explain if you don't mind, because I know a little bit about the collective unconscious, unconscious, yeah, because we all
Yeah.
talk about it, like in the psychedelic community, but I don't really have like a good understanding of it.
I haven't read that much of you. I've read some of him, like actually read like his writings, and it's dense as shit. It's a little hard to like follow, kind of, but I guess like the only way I could really explain it, and I'm probably not, I don't have a good grasp on it, but what I do understand is that he was, his idea I think was that there are these archetypes that have played out through humanity, and they seem to survive all the changes and the collapses of empires and stuff, like the trickster and I think the old man or whatever, and you know, the
Mm.
anima and those things. I think his basic idea is that they kind of have a life of their own, like they're actually real, like they're actually entities that really exist, and they change shape and form, but they follow humanity, you know, through its developments.
Wow, I
I
didn't know
think,
that's what it
yeah,
was. I thought it was
I think
like,
it's something like that. Yeah.
oh, fascinating. So what is he saying that they're like got their own like independent consciousness
I
sort of thing?
think, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Yeah. And it
Fascinating.
spans,
Wow.
eons instead of our little, human consciousness.
That
Yeah.
would make so much sense. That would like actually fill in a lot of gaps for me, because there's a lot of times where I've had trips, and like I've done it with like different friends.
Mhm.
But if they've had like the same sort of vibe, if they've had a similar energy, when I've had the trip, they've turned into the same being. Like like I'm
Okay.
tripping properly, and next thing it's the same. Like even though I'm tripping with Aiden now instead of Phoenix, it's the same entity now that I'm like high as hell. Like it's the
Oh,
same being.
weird.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because they're similar. Yeah. I think that's kind of part of I think that's part of the idea behind astrology too, like the different signs sort of being like
Mm,
almost immortal in a way, and they just embody different people in different ways. I think
right.
that's kind of the idea. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. I don't know much about astrology. My wife's really into it though.
I think I did have a trip actually that was like, sometimes you get like random info downloads on trips, and
Yeah, okay.
you don't know if it's real or not. Like it will just like, if you're not really blasted off, a lot of the stuff that you're hearing can just be like you trying to make sense of very weird thoughts, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
one of the
So you
things,
got to get you got to break through basically to really
yeah,
get to the reality. Okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's why I feel, because like you're like halfway in between, and so it's just like a whole bunch of like weird stuff going on as you're like kind of separating.
Yeah.
Um, But one of the things they were talking about was the fact that it was like different stars like channel themselves into us or some shit like that. Like it's weird. It
Okay,
was
yeah.
like we've all got like different energies from the universe, like channeling
Yeah.
itself through us, or something like that. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
an interesting idea. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense. I think stars have their own sound too. I think they all emit like noises and stuff. I'm pretty sure
True,
certain frequencies. I think they do. Yeah.
true. Maybe those are the origins of the archetypes. I don't know, but yeah. To answer the first question, wait, was it if I think the subconscious is like the collective?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. I guess what do you think it is? Because you were talking about I think you were saying something about how in dreams, like yeah, oh shit, what were you saying? Something about the subconscious, like not being
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can't remember
Um,
exactly.
yeah. I mean, I guess I think I would definitely subscribe to something like that. Uh, it's just like it's like it's hard to know if the things that you meet are like a reflection of your ego, or if they have like their own independent, intelligence and shit like that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I definitely feel, whatever the case is, they're out of your control, and they're definitely consistent for other people, which is what the most interesting aspect of this is. Because that's why we kind of say, this reality is real, is because we're all kind of having like a consistent experience of it. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also the fact that it's out of your control too is a little bit kind of a clue. I feel like it seems like a clue to me, that if it's not, if it's not just you, then it's got to be something other than you. And if it's other than you, it's independent in a way. And
Mm,
I don't know.
100%. And of course,
Yeah.
one of the interesting things about it is that there are similarities, like with psychedelics, psychedelic trips and like near death experiences. I don't know if you've like stumbled on that yet, or if you've seen like
Oh
some
yeah,
videos.
yeah. Listen to Terrence McKenna and the way he talks about what the mushrooms say to him and stuff. It resonates a lot. It seems a
Right.
lot like what these people say, you know, when they go meet the light or their
Yeah.
ancestors or whatever. You know, it
Yeah.
reminds me. It all sounds very similar. You know, obviously different, but
Um,
but
I was going to
no,
say,
good.
well, what are like for you, from doing the research you've done on near death experiences, what are like some of the most consistent, like, phenomena and stuff like that that people are kind of going through?
One of the more interesting things to me, I mean, obviously there's the light. Everybody goes to the light and whatnot, and a lot of people see that the dark tunnel they go through to get to the light, and then you know they see ancestors a lot. But
Mm,
one of the cooler things to me is I have rarely come across accounts that talk about any sort of like, well, for me, it's interesting because coming from, you know, the super conservative religious background that I come from, I don't know, most people do in America, I feel like,
mm,
but when people die, a lot of times, even if they were like super fundamentalist, there's no condemnation like at all after you've died, you know,
right.
for the bad shit you've done in your life. I mean, like there's accountability for it, it seems like, but there's not like this eternal sort of damnation or whatever, you know, that just doesn't seem to be there really. Not
Wow.
eternal, you know what I mean? I don't know. Then that was really probably one of the things that grabbed me about all these experiences. It just reaffirms like suspicions I've had since I was a kid, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you like heard of hell stories, like people going to hell
Yeah.
in these experiences? Like
Yeah,
what
for
happens there?
sure. Oh, I don't know. Well, like I mean, I don't know. The ones I've heard of, it's funny because the ones I've heard of are usually people that come back and they retain their really fundamentalist beliefs. You know what I mean? So there's that thing where it could be even in the near death experiences, it could a lot of that just be you dealing with your subconscious in a, you know, in a really weird state. You know, your mind's
Yeah.
thinking it's dead basically.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but yeah, it seems usually pretty bad. It doesn't seem very fun. It seems like a really really bad trip. It sounds very similar, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
For what I've heard.
like Tom's ayahuasca trip or whatever, that really bad one.
True. Is it like that? Is that what people are like describing?
That's what it seems like most of the time. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of religious imagery a lot of the time. I think there have been a few where people weren't raised very religious and they've had really dark near death experiences.
Mm.
But I can't remember them now. I can't remember like the details of them. But the pattern's pretty similar. You know, you usually get stuck in a really dark place. It seems like, and you're like as alone as you've ever been, and you're like filled with dread a lot of the time
Mm.
in a way that you couldn't be just, you know, in this body.
Wow.
So
Yeah. Like a bad trip. Yeah. It
it's
seems
what it seems like.
like it's from I haven't heard many bad trips. But the ones I've heard have almost been like a warning. Like I heard one where the guy was like a surgeon or some shit like that, and he was really like dismissive of near death experiences.
Hmm.
And then he had one himself. I think he had a heart attack or a car accident or some shit. And I remember he was like living like a super selfish life, didn't have any close ties with his family or anything like that. And then he went to hell. And while he was there, he got the sense of like why he was there. It was almost like, this is what comes from living your life like this. And then
Yeah.
he came out of it and just changed his life. Like, he went
I
about
feel like a lot
correctly.
of time, like you can probably see the fact that you were living in that space while you were alive anyway, even if you kind of
Yeah.
like distracted yourself with, you know, your career and your you know, success and stuff. Like, because it really is like I don't know, like if you did neglect all the human connections that you're supposed to have in this life, you know what I mean? It's gonna inside you, you're gonna be dealing with that, even if you can distract yourself. I feel like, you
100%.
know.
100%. It is, in fact. So, one of the things that people say with like tripping, right, is like whatever you're hiding from yourself, that's what comes to the surface. So, they're
Yeah.
like, if you're doing your best, maybe you're not where you want to be or whatever, but you're doing your best, you have a trip, don't worry, it's going to be a great time. You get a few couple, some lessons will come up to help you, guide you, but that'll
Yeah.
be about it. Whereas if there's some shit that you don't want to acknowledge, and so you're like resisting it while you're sober and like just, in normal state of consciousness, when you take psychedelics, it comes to the surface. Like you just can't, for whatever reason, you can't hide from it. It comes up,
Yeah.
and because you resist it, that's what creates like a really bad trip and sends you like
Yeah.
spiraling. So maybe the
That
same
makes
thing's
sense.
happening. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. And I think that's probably kind of the reason I've avoided taking any psychedelics, because I've always been suspicious that there's some craziness in my, the back of my brain that's going to come out. You know what I mean? I'm
So
probably going to end up doing San Pedro in like my 40s, I imagine. But
just diving straight into like one of the most powerful ones.
is it really? I hear it's one of the most gentle, but maybe I'm hearing wrong.
Look, man, everybody, like, some people say the same thing about ayahuasca. Some people say the same
Yeah,
thing about mushrooms. You know what I mean? I think in the end of the day, if you do a low dose of something, you're
yeah,
probably going to have like a similar trip. And if you have a high dose of anything, it's probably going to be a similar trip. And it's like, it's
yeah.
just wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't see the point, I guess, in doing a low dose. Really, that's probably part of the reason too. Like, I don't know. Do you think it makes sense to try to, I don't know, clean out any of the junk you think might be a problem before you go into a psychedelic trip, before you dive in there? Or do you think you should just jump in and deal with whatever it is? Like, what would you, I don't know, yeah, what would you advise somebody who's thinking about getting into it, at some point?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's hard to say. So sometimes somebody may not be aware of the fact that they have that junk that needs to be cleaned up. And it's
Hmm.
actually the psychedelic itself that kind of makes them aware of it. Um,
Yeah,
and it's very hard to predict what's going to be a good trip and what's going to be a bad trip based on that, because
yeah,
if you don't know that you're hiding from something, and then it comes up during the trip, that might not be the best time. But I
yeah,
also think that if you're somebody who is like doing your best in life, just in general, like not like 100%, like every day, like you fuck up every now and then, like
yeah,
everybody does. You're just being a human, but you're being as a human as well as you can. I think you're very likely going to have a good trip. I think for me, I've only had one bad trip and it was on mushrooms. And
okay,
I mean, I've had a few bad trips in the beginning stages, but that was on synthetic drugs. That was just, doing its fucked up stuff. Uh,
okay, yeah,
but the only bad trip I've had on like psychedelics that I'd actually promote was on mushrooms. And it was because I was really running away from something that was very wrong. Like I'd fucked over a friend, didn't address it at all. And then I think subconsciously wanted to punish myself. And so I like did
yeah, okay.
all the wrong things when it comes to tripping. I did like the highest dose of mushrooms on a day where I just like was like, fuck it, let's just do it today. Like I've got nothing else to do, like no preparation. And
Yeah,
then it just
yeah,
started going bad because I was resisting it from the get go. Like I don't want to trip. I was like, why did I just do the highest dose of mushrooms then? And it was
yeah, yeah.
basically all leading to this moment where I realized what I'd done. And as soon as I apologized to my friend, the bad trip stopped. It was like over as soon as I made the
So
apology.
you did it mid-trip. You apologized to your friend.
And it just stopped
Oh,
being
wow.
negative immediately. It was like curse has been
Wow.
lifted. That was it. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So that
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, like, should you even avoid a bad trip then? I don't really know. It seems like maybe, but maybe not. I don't know. Yeah.
exactly. That's the thing, is that's why a lot of people say there's no such thing as a bad trip.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, look, there's such thing as a bad trip. Like it's not fun, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I think, at least with me, there was absolutely a reason for it. And if it wasn't for that bad trip, I wouldn't have been able to address it. So I would say it was 100% worth it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That reminds me of the way nightmares have shifted for me over the years of learning how to lucid dream. They've kind of become opportunities. Because when you get to confront, or not really confront, but interact with the dark shit in your subconscious, it really is an opportunity to like love yourself in a way that you would never have before. Really,
Right.
it's So yeah, I guess I don't know if I would. Yeah, maybe it's not a good thing to avoid. Maybe I should do it in my 30s, not my 40s. I don't know. So I
Yeah.
probably will.
Yeah. I reckon you love it.
Yeah,
Like, I think you should do it only if you get that calling sort of thing.
yeah, yeah.
Don't force yourself. But also at the same time, you're doing a lot of dream work and stuff like that. Like a lot of people don't do that. They don't know how to do that. And that's why they go to psychedelics.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, that makes sense. And that's kind of part of why I guess also that I've yeah, not done it too is you have access to it. You're kind of a psychedelic yourself if you learn how to
Mm,
use your being the right way. You can
yeah.
jump in there in a way. It's got to be quite a bit different, because with a dream, it's not, you're not stuck there. You're not just taking the ride. Then you can wake up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be, yeah.
Have you like gotten like help? profound lessons from your lucid dreams?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I remember somewhat recently I found I was lucid and I came across like this wolf, this really angry wolf or whatever. And a lot of the people I listen to, they say when you come across things like that, you just give it a hug or something or tell it you love it or whatever. And yeah, I did. It was like really angry and it was trying to eat me and stuff. And I did. I went and pet the thing and gave it a hug, and it turned into just like this little puppy. It was really cool.
Whoa.
And you wake up differently. You know, you wake up and you have this cool feeling. Similar thing happened when I tried to like evoke my inner child, you know what I mean? Like just me as a kid.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. What came up was a cousin of mine actually that I was kind of an asshole to when I was a kid. Not like badly, but I was kind of a dick to him. And
Yeah.
I was like giving him a hug and he was like he got a little aggressive, but then it in the middle of it, I learned like calmed down and like just kept letting him know that look, dude, I love you, man. You're like the best. And it changed. I don't know. It really does. You wake up afterward. That's the thing that's really cool is you wake up afterward and you feel a shift in your being with it subconsciously.
Right.
Something is kind of reconnected or something.
Well,
It is definitely profound work, the Dreamwork stuff. It's just probably not quite as intense as psychedelic work, I imagine.
have you had like a permanent shift from like after like having a lucid dream and like doing like, something like this? Have you felt like a noticeable shift at all? Like
Probably,
permanently?
probably a little slightly though. It's
Yeah.
probably not like super profound. I mean, but it's definite. It's solid for sure. But I don't
Wow.
know if it would stop being as solid if I just like stopped doing the dream work. Because you'll go through phases and I stop. But no, it's probably been pretty permanent. Honestly, a lot of the changes
Wow.
because it's not like it's just a magic thing. You know, you're dealing with your own mind,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you definitely act differently in my waking life for sure
Wow.
from the
Wow.
things I've learned in there. Yeah, definitely. It is powerful work for sure. I'm surprised that it's not more popular, to be honest, because it's so accessible once you kind of uh there's a little bit of a fear associated with
Yeah.
getting there in
Yeah,
certain ways, you
there
know what I
is.
mean? Because
There is.
yeah.
Yeah. I
Even with
know.
just the
Oh, sorry, go on.
no, no. You know what?
Yeah, I was saying, like I remember having a talk with the dream psychologist, and he was really a fascinating guy. Like he had some advice for me that did help me with the problem I was having in lucid dreams. But even he was like recommending me not do it. He was like, yeah, like don't do it. Like you're just trying to like control your mind or some shit like that. And I was like,
What?
yeah, I was like, I
That's
can't really
wild.
understand it. I think a lot of people just have a fear of like change, a fear of like the unknown and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, because like I don't know, the idea of trying to control your mind through lucid dreaming doesn't really make sense to me. I feel like you're just trying to learn something, with your
Yeah,
subconscious. Yeah.
if you try to control it, it gets angry at you. You know, it's really about the awareness. It's just bringing awareness. That's all it is. And then I
Yeah.
mean, you have influence over there, but it's not like you control your mind. You don't control your thoughts. You know what I mean? But you do
Yes.
have influence over them. You know,
Yes.
it's not. It's yeah. I've never understood that. I've never understood people that think like lucid dreaming is dangerous. That's pretty wild. I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. I think there's also people who be like, oh, you can bring back like demons and spirits. They say the same thing about psychedelics as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Well, what do you
wild.
think about that? Because do you think those things are real? Like, do you think the beings you encounter when you're on a trip, do you think they're real, or do you think that's just subconscious stuff? I mean, I don't know what the difference is really, but
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know what the difference is either, because it's like, are people you meet in real life real, or are they just like a version of an archetype? You know what I mean? That's somewhere in your
yeah,
subconscious sort of thing. So, I would say they feel realer than the people in this reality because there's almost like a layer that's been stripped away. So it's like here, it's like everybody, seems like the name that you've kind of like given them.
yeah, the
Whereas
box yeah, you've got ideas,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, exactly. That little label. And then the psychedelic like peels away the label and it's more just like, no, this is archetype A, this is the jester over here. It's like just like a little bit more like it feels a little bit more original or something like that.
yeah. I get what you
Um
mean, yeah, because taking those layers away can feel kind of chaotic. It's like where's reality? Like where are my boundaries? I can't navigate without boundaries. You know what I mean? Yeah, but it
100%. Yeah.
does those, but there are real boundaries. I feel like ones that actually exist, not the ones that you've decided to exist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's see I have like why do you say that? Why do you say that?
Like because I believe there's an actual reality, and oh, I'm getting feedback. I don't know if there's a problem or not. I'm hearing myself. I don't know
Not
if
on
that's
this end. Not on this end.
okay. Okay. Um, oh, because what I've noticed with just meditation and stuff like that, it can feel chaotic to I guess go outside of the scope of what you've like outside of your lens that you've your paradigm, I guess, that you've looked at the world through, because it is chattering. It'll like, it'll feel a little wiggly, but I think there are actual boundaries, like the archetypes. You know what I mean? Like that's what I mean. The like there are realities that are real outside of what you think are real, and it's
Mhm.
more beautiful, and you can navigate better if you get outside of yours, because
Right.
it's mostly just a hindrance. It's like a crutch. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about it.
Sure.
But I think there's a reality outside of what you think is real. Basically, I do think
Right.
there is one, and there's no reason for the fear really, except for thinking that there's no such thing as uh, like I guess the fear comes from thinking there is no reality. I guess maybe I don't know. It gets really hard for me to think about it. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
Why? What were you? What were you wondering about there? I'm curious because it seemed like you picked up on something that was interesting to you.
I just don't know. Like honestly, for me, it's always been an unknown.
Yeah.
Because I know that when I've like met these, I guess we'll call them archetypes for now. Like when you meet the archetypes, um, like they seem like so super real. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like they feel like realer than anything I've ever met for sure. Um, but then there's also been experiences where it's like really religious. Like I had a DMT trip, and like it was my first breakthrough, and I went a little bit harder than I meant to because it was just like I had no idea if I was like ever gonna do it again. So I wanted to have like the best experience. And
Yeah.
I remember like very quickly I met the beings, like they came up to me, but then they like took me to the white light, and once I was like in the white light, I just felt like there was a near death experience that I was listening to on your channel, and she described it exactly the same way. It's like you're a droplet when you're sober, and then all of a sudden you realize you're a part of the ocean and you just merge with the
Okay. Yeah.
ocean. And it was
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
like that. It was like I gathered up with like these other entities. I wasn't me anymore. I was like one of the I called them the machine elves, but they're like whatever they are, one of the
Yeah. Yeah.
archetypes or
Yeah.
whatever. And we're all like there. We're all made of light, white light, and we're just like looking around, and they're just like, "Okay, you ready? Let's do this. It's time to like become everything, or it's time to like dissolve or something." And we all just like let go and stopped existing, and we became like one with like everything in the universe.
See
Um,
that when people talk about that, it blows my mind. I'm like, well, what does that even mean? When you
I
just
know.
stop existing? Do you have awareness when you stop existing? Are you aware that you don't exist? I'm
Yeah.
confused by that a
So,
little.
um, like it's kind of like just the closest thing I could say when you're sober. And it's not the same for sure, but it's the closest you could get to it would be to like just be like absolute awareness and nothing else. So
Okay.
if you were like meditating and then you detached from your thoughts and then you detached from like everything, if you just let go of absolutely everything, you wouldn't like see a tree around you. You wouldn't see like, your hands and feet. You would just see, like you would just like nothing would have any meaning. It would just be. And
Okay.
that's kind of what it's like. It's like there is no thought. There's like it's everything and nothing at the same time. And like it's like forever and then forever's over in a moment. Like
Okay.
it's so weird.
That reminds me of have you heard of like yoga nidra?
I haven't no.
Okay, I mean, it's not like anything too wild, but okay. Do you know who Robert Monroe is?
No.
Okay. He's a super interesting guy. He started having astral projections at like 50 or something on accident. Basically, he thought he was dying and stuff, and he started having thousands of them. I don't really know why, but he in his books he describes a method for having an astral projection, and it's really similar to yoga nidra. It's like sleep yoga basically. What you're describing really it reminded me of like I've done this like two, maybe three times where you wake up in the middle of the night, you go back to bed, but you go back to bed trying to maintain awareness into the dream state, basically.
Mm,
And on the way there, you have to dip so low in like consciousness where you kind of just black out. You just like kind of go away, but you maintain your awareness into the dream state.
right.
That makes me think of that a little bit. I'm sure it's way different, but but it's just like, yeah, you kind of, you lose the feeling in your body. You don't really know where your body is. Then you kind of start losing your thoughts and stuff. And everything just kind of it just goes away for a little bit. And then you just wake up maintaining your awareness into the dream. You're just there then.
Yeah.
But that, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's like
No, that
similar or not.
I think that'd be similar. I think because when I was trying to lucid dream, or when I started like doing lucid dreaming, that was the technique where
Yeah.
you just like
Yeah.
laying completely still, and then like my body would like start like getting the itches and then start shaking and
Yeah.
all that kind of, you know, whack stuff. And you just
Yeah.
have to like not for me, I would just like not think about any of it and just kind of just
Yeah.
be like I think I was trying to astral project at the time, so I was doing like some weird rope pulling like technique.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all I was thinking about. But the thing is, you probably were there, but because you're not thinking about it, you just wouldn't really like remember. Like there's nothing to
Mhm.
remember, you know what I mean? So it's probably like this
Yeah.
moment where you've just like gone from your waking state into the dream state and you were like everything forever. And you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. You said that sometimes it's like religious when you have sort of a breakthrough experience, I think is what you said. And I'm curious what you mean by that. But
Um, well,
I don't know. Yeah.
so I just meant like, it's kind of, a lot of the like ways that I would imagine like heaven to be
Yeah.
like you know, like, or at least described in the Bible. I'm not really that familiar with the Bible, but if I imagine heaven is described in the Bible, then I would guess it would be like similar to this experience on DMT, like a tunnel of light, you know, kind of angels in a way that take you to the white light, and a sense of God, which is all good, you know.
Yeah.
And so in this way, like it's very like from what I understand, you know, religion to talk about, there's a lot there that I think
Right.
I find in trips. Of course, also it's just like religion is like the only thing that kind of like talks about something beyond this reality, and so
Yeah.
I probably there's a lot of stuff that doesn't fit within like the Bible and stuff like that as well, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, because um the thing about that that really kind of intrigues me is the darker stuff because in the Bible, like people have kind of what Rome did with the Bible and stuff is pretty fucked. You know, obviously they turned it into a control mechanism and whatnot. But when you read people like when you read Paul, like he wrote a lot of the books in the Bible. Like one of the more interesting concepts that has become really popular nowadays because it seems to be true is the idea of universalism in the Bible.
Mm.
Basically, like everybody's good. You know, everybody goes to heaven pretty much, and the idea that that's actually what the Bible meant to be saying, you know, the whole time. And one of the things that was really interesting to me about that whole idea is there are people that say that even the demons and Satan himself are going to be redeemed, you know,
Mm.
yeah, to use biblical language. So the way that I don't know, it makes it really interesting the idea of having bad trips or meeting like dark entities out there. You know what I mean? Because that's been something that I've been fascinated by because it seems like it would make it would redeem the bad trips in a way in my head. You know what I mean? It would make it like almost valuable or more interesting than even good trips because the redemption of the dark entities or whatever that you'd see that's played a big role in my dreaming practice anyway. You know, is like seeing how is it that the devil himself could be like redeemed. I don't know. For me,
Mm.
that gives me a lot of comfort in a way that the idea of having a bad trip might actually be a good thing. You know, it always
Yeah.
has been with like nightmares, like lucid nightmares, especially. You know what I mean? I
Yes.
don't know why that just seemed interesting to me.
No, no, no. It is. It's super fascinating, and it's something I've thought about as well. Like, is there like absolute evil, or is it like you know, bad trips happen when you're resisting the trip? Are these just like angels that you are like resisting? You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but with the nightmares, there might be some similarities then. So, did you find that there was a way to like navigate the nightmares, or was there something you got from the nightmares that kind of like benefited you or anything like that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I was saying earlier, it's an opportunity. It really is. It always seems like it's an opportunity to actually. It's almost like a gift because, like you know, having a good experience in a lucid dream is awesome and everything, but really the bad ones are where the value is. It's where you mine the gold from, really. It's the
Right.
you have an opportunity to kind of rectify what we would call evil in the world. You know what I mean? At
So
least inside of you, but it might go beyond you, I feel like,
is it
if
like
you can.
what you were talking about where you were like meeting it with love sort of thing?
Yeah, basically, yeah, meeting it with love, if you can. I mean, I don't know how easy that would be in like, 5 gram mushroom trip. That's probably a lot more difficult, I imagine, but
I think like if you can remember that, like if you can remember that you're
yeah.
tripping and you can remember like, listen, I can meet this with love, because that's one of the most important things. When I was having my bad mushroom trip, what stopped me from having a bad trip first was me saying, I don't have to have a bad trip. I know I can make this positive. Like, I don't know how, but I know I can do it and I will do it. It was like
Yeah,
this like
yeah.
sureness, and it was
Yeah,
pretty shortly after that.
yeah. I feel like because I think a lot of people, a part of the reason they don't venture into even like lucid dreaming and stuff, much less psychedelics, is because of the religious background that a lot of Americans have. At least I don't know how you're in Australia, right?
Yeah, it's
I don't know
different.
how
Yeah.
religious yeah, I
Yeah, we
imagine
are
it is. But
very,
here, yeah, I think that's a big part of the problem is people start seeing the devil and stuff.
yes.
But if you read the Bible the way it was written and like for the message it was intended to convey, it's actually about the redemption of the evil, if we can call it evil, because it does, it instills like this belief in absolute evil. And I'm not sure that that's even a real thing.
Mm.
I don't know if it can be.
Do you mind, like, so what do you mean, like, when you say there's a redemption of evil? What are they saying about, like, the devil? Is it like that the devil is evil, like, temporarily, but he will become good? Or, like, what is it that they're kind of like saying?
Oh man, see, I don't know. You're talking about like biblically? You mean
Yeah,
like
yeah,
as
yeah.
far as
Like, what you're referring to when they're saying that, like, this stuff can be redeemed.
yeah, well, yeah, see, I don't know. I'd have to I'm struggling with the idea that he is evil, and
Mm,
can be redeemed. I don't really know. I don't know that that's even part of it, to be honest. It
yeah,
might just be part of the dance, really. I don't know. It's
yeah.
confusing, but it's so frustrating too because I see if you see things like there are things in this world that seem to be absolutely evil, like that like it does seem like there are, but
Mm.
it doesn't seem to make sense with the idea that good exists. I don't know. I have a problem with dualism. It doesn't seem to make any sense. Like there's black and white. It doesn't really. I don't know. It doesn't
Yeah,
really make sense to me.
yeah. I think I would subscribe to what you're saying, because I think a lot of people say that evil is just the emptiness of good. Like, it's not
Mm.
that there is something called evil. It's just that there's only good, and then there's like like there is no good, and that's evil, sort of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
like there's thing and then there's nothing. I don't. I have a hard time believing in nothing. I guess is really that's where that always boils down to me. I've gotten into this argument with some buddies so many times where just I can't nothing can't be. You know what I mean? It
yeah,
doesn't
well,
it
nothing
doesn't
doesn't
make sense.
exist. Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't exist. Like, how
yeah,
could it even be? Like, we can conceptualize it, but no, you can't even really conceptualize nothing. You try
yeah,
to, it doesn't work.
exactly, because you're
Yeah,
something. Yeah, it's. I think that's one of so that's kind of the part of the duality thing as well, is like that, so that when you turn into white light on DMT, a
mm,
lot of people will describe going past duality, and I think that is an aspect of it. I think, to become everything, you're kind of nothing at the same time, because it's like, if you're everything, there's like, you're not existing outside, like there's no barrier around you, and if there's no
yeah.
barrier around you, then you're not a thing, and if you're not a thing, you're nothing. You know what I mean?
See are you aware then? Or are you aware of being
Not.
nothing? Because if you're aware, you're not aware.
Yeah,
Not aware at all.
that's the thing. That's the difference between what I was describing before in meditation, where you just like you're pure awareness. This is
Yeah.
like it's kind of, it's probably ultimate awareness, but you're not self-aware. So you know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like you're there's something maybe that's like perceiving this, because there's light. I know there's light, at least, but
Okay. Okay.
yeah, but like there's no self-awareness. You're not thinking to yourself, oh man, I've been here for trillions of years. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like, it's I can't describe it, but you're just like
I know I'm trying to empathize with it. It's like there's no way I
so,
can't.
yeah. I was trying to describe it to my girlfriend last night. She's like, I don't get it at all. And I was like, yeah, it's fair. Yeah, I don't get it.
Does she dabble in psychedelics too or no?
She wants to, but she's, I think, a little bit nervous as well. And I'm not like
Yeah.
going to push her to do it unless she really
Yeah,
wants to
yeah.
do it. Yeah. So,
Yeah, that
you
could
know,
go badly. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So if she really wants to do it, she'll do it. And I think she does, but she's just kind of like, she's not in a rush for it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems wise,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. Um, but anyway, I think that evil is a part of that. I think I don't think. Oh fuck, man, this is hard. I don't know.
Yeah. It always gets, it's like, okay, I'm gonna try to talk and my words aren't gonna make any sense.
Yeah, exactly. um, I know during that trip, it got me in touch with this God space or whatever, and I've been
Okay.
there, or I've met the same entities that took me there on other trips, and they've kind of talked about stuff which is a little bit easier to communicate. And the stuff that they will say is like, fear doesn't make sense, and love is like, that's all there is, that's all that actually exists. But we, for whatever reason, choose to be afraid, and to them it's kind of hilarious. They laugh at it because they're like, it doesn't make any sense that we choose
That's
to live our
awesome.
life out of fear. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that fear is kind of like the evil, because it like doesn't exist, it doesn't make sense, it's nothing, you know what I mean, it's illusion. um
Yeah.
but that kind of at least also allows us to, you know um what would you say, be grateful for the good at the same time, so it kind of also serves a purpose.
Yeah, I get that. I get that, but it almost like every time I hear that, I think, okay, we're just justifying having fear. Then, I don't know, any justification for fear. It always bothers me. I get what you're saying, and it makes sense. But when I hear that, I'm like, okay, but
I get
is
you.
there a way to live without fear? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
yeah.
also still appreciate the good. You know what I mean?
I think that's what we're meant to do. I think it's almost like a process of, now this is like full speculation, I don't really know, but like, let's just go that wild here. I feel like we're almost, um the universe becoming self-aware, and that's
Okay.
like what we are as human beings, is we are helping the universe become self-aware. And the way that we are doing that is we are leaving the ocean as a droplet and then returning to the ocean. And so we're like leaving the ocean, taking a look at it, understanding it, and then becoming it again. And so it's kind of like, in that way, you know you have to have fear to be separate, you have to be selfish, you have to, be disconnected from truth, and then have to learn that that's not the that is illusion, realize that that's illusion, and then you can actually appreciate what good really is. Because if you live a life where you're just good from the get-go, you don't actually know yourself, because you've never been separate to have a look in on yourself, you never had to question yourself, you've never had to understand yourself. When you separate yourself, then and immerse yourself in fear and illusion, you can actually appreciate what truth really is, and what good really is, and why it's good, and stuff like that, and then return to it, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay. I get what you mean. Uh, to me, that sounds like you have to see black in order to appreciate white. You know what I mean?
I get you. Yeah.
Yeah, but like there's a rainbow. You know what I mean? Like you could just see green to appreciate yellow. I feel like I'm just arguing with myself right now because that debate is obviously it's probably one of the oldest ones that's ever existed. But
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about it. I don't like the idea that we have to have fear. It bothers me for some reason. I wish I could. Uh, I wish I could argue against it, but I can't. I don't know
Mm.
how to. I don't even know if you can. I don't know if it's possible. It might just be an innate reality. I don't know.
Well, that, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like we're like totally out on speculation here. So
Yeah,
it's really
yeah,
hard to like argue with anything. But I get what you're saying as well. It's like, why can't we just, whatever we get out of that process, why can't we have that from the get-go anyway?
yeah,
You know what I mean? And I don't know. I
yeah.
genuinely, I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe it's just so that those beings can laugh at how ridiculous it is, you know? Maybe
Yeah,
maybe it's just
maybe.
funny. Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's the thing is, as profound as these psychedelic trips are, it is like just the beginning. Like there is so much more on the other side that we just don't understand. Like it's the tip of the iceberg.
So what do you think about like uh I remember this it was a Joe Rogan podcast actually. Duncan Trussell was talking about some yogi that Ram Dass was hanging out with, and he was talking about how he gave him LSD or something. He said that they'd had that a while ago, but they better to be Christ than to visit him or something. Like
Right.
I guess, do you think that they have? Do you think those cultures have moved beyond just the beginning, like you were saying? Do you think they've like found some stuff that's like I don't know, beyond that?
I would guess so. I mean, I feel like we understand our reality through language. Like, you know, on the most intimate level, most of us are our thoughts, and our thoughts are language, And so language was developed to kind of map out this reality. It's a very pragmatic tool, that we use to communicate with one another so that we can go out and like conquer this world and survive and stuff like that. Like
Yeah,
that's like the primary at least that's the origin of like language. And
yeah,
so because most of us exist there, that's all we kind of know. And so even like when we have these like really profound psychedelic trips, or you have a near death experience, or you have an awesome lucid dream, you come out of it, and the first thing you're doing is you're making sense of it through language and through your thoughts and stuff like that. Whereas I think a lot of these guys transcend language, and they'd probably understand it on an emotional level, or on a pure awareness level, or some shit like that.
yeah. I would agree with that because of the Tibetans are really interesting too. They seem to have like moved into interesting spaces that way. There's this
Yeah.
guy, what's his name? Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche. He wrote a book about lucid dream, well, dream yoga and like the old Bung traditions and stuff out of Tibet. And yet they really do. They seem like almost like it's when I listen to his book, I don't read it. I listen to it, but when I listen to him, it's like it's almost amusing to him that we're so fascinated with like this infant type stuff. It's like it's weird. It's like, okay, yeah, you guys, I guess over in the West, you guys need to play around with this for a while until you until
Yeah.
you move on, until you grow up. Basically, see, I get that impression from him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd agree. I think that's what it is like for them. Like they're just that's their reality, like 100%.
yeah, it
And
sounds like
they're
it.
crazy. Like some of the things that they can do through meditation, like just there was that guy, I can't remember his name, who literally was just like, "Yep, I'm gonna die today. I've chosen this day to meditate to death." I'm
Yeah, can
like,
you imagine? Yeah, that reminds me of like Enoch in the Bible. He walked with God and just didn't die the way we die. Just left.
yeah,
That
yeah,
seems bizarre. I think what's his name? That sad guru guy. He talks about his wife doing that. I think, which just
really.
seems like it seems like a really good way of just covering up the fact that you killed your wife. In my
Yeah, no, it's yeah, it blows my mind. And that's the thing. The way that we've kind of like mapped out this physical reality, they've like mapped out that reality. And they're
yeah, it
like,
seems bizarre. Yeah.
yeah, like they just go like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, I think they talk about like the reality that you go to when you die.
The
I'm not
Bardo? Are you talking about the Bardo?
I think so. I haven't read it. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I've heard
Okay.
about it. Yeah, where they're literally just like saying, avoid going to the blue and yellow lights. Like, don't take
Yeah.
them any notice. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
shit. That blows my mind.
I wonder if that's real, or if that's just their religion, if they've actually mapped it out. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but like I could imagine if they're able to like meditate to the point where their physical body dies, I can imagine they can meditate to the point where they're going there, having a look around, taking note of it, coming back, and just being like, mapping it out, and then talking to other dudes who are doing the same stuff and just comparing notes and being like, did you also see this? Yes. What happened to you when you went there? Yeah, the same thing happened to me. Let's write it down, sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. That's that. Well, yeah. Well, the proof is in the pudding, man. Like I'm sure you've seen the picture of that guy in I think it was like the 60s where he lit himself on fire, that monk, like I don't know anybody that can do that. That's fucking crazy.
I know.
There's something real there, obviously. You know,
Yeah.
they've found some things that we don't really. I don't know any Western person that's doing that.
Yeah,
Definitely
I
not.
know. I always think about that. I always think about that. Like we've got crazy dudes in the UFC who we like watch and we're like, man, these dudes are like ridiculously tough. And then there's this guy
Yeah,
over in India who's never thrown a punch and he's just lit himself on fire and like not blinked an eye.
nothing. Just like, okay, this is how I go. I guess.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine.
I know. I
Uh,
know it's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, but do you think that the things that we're mapping out in these realms, like if you go to a near-death experience, and a lot of people will say they have like that life review,
Mhm.
or the white lie and stuff like that. Do you reckon that's like the barrier that you were talking about? That's like the real reality sort of thing?
Oh man, I don't know. See, yeah, because you wouldn't know unless you fully died, probably. You know, and I
Yeah,
don't even know if you'd know then. There might be a
yeah,
bunch of different things you go through.
yeah.
I, I, I do definitely believe that those are realities and they're more real than here, probably. You
Mm,
know,
mm,
for sure. And it is weird the consistencies that you find. You know, that like that's compelling for sure.
yeah,
Um, I don't know though. Like obviously you can't know, but I
yeah.
would lean toward, yeah, those are things that we are mapping out, and probably other cultures have mapped out long before. I feel like
Yes, yeah.
there probably is something to that whole Graham Hancock idea, you know, where like these civilizations got wiped out and they were, you know, way more advanced in certain ways than we are. I feel like I do kind of believe that.
Mm,
Um, yeah, all these traditions about like people living for thousands of years and stuff. I don't think that they're just it's weird because it's a consistency too. You know, there's so many consistencies with the old religions that I do feel like probably we're just infants, you know, about to learn some stuff that people long before in ages past. It makes me think of the Kali Yuga, you know, or the Yuga cycle, you know, like I feel like that's probably something to that whole idea, you
what's
know,
that?
the ages. The Yuga cycle.
What's the Yuga cycle?
It's a Hindu idea. There's like the universe basically goes. It's like it's basically the precession of the equinox, the great like 24,000 year or whatever, you know. And like their idea is that there's like a golden age that lasts, I think, like 4,000 years or something, where human beings live for, you know, like thousands of years, and then like we are right now apparently just coming out of the worst year, the Iron Age, the Kali Yuga, and
Right,
we're headed up toward. And there's a lot of evidence for it, I guess. I mean, you know, you can call it evidence, but like in the 1700s, apparently, you know, the Industrial Revolution and all the advances that humanity is come up with. I don't know. It's a very interesting idea, but it's basically just a
mm,
great year, you know, that human beings
right.
go through. I kind of feel like, yeah, we're probably just now starting to map out all the stuff that people knew. If that's real, people probably knew up in those golden ages and silver ages
Right.
and whatnot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like I feel like there's something like that going on for sure. Like I reckon like I don't know if you'd call it like a crazy theory or whatever, but I feel like that movie Wally, where like all the fat
Oh,
dudes are
yeah.
being looked after by like technology and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I love Wally. That's a great
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that's kind of like our future, but not in such like a dark way. I feel like we're kind of gonna have technology just like taking care of like every base need, even freaking like AI is starting to create art. So like everything's just gonna be like done for us. And
Yeah, I
then
imagine. Yeah, yeah.
and one of the things they say about psychedelics, like what's his name, Aldous Huxley, he talked about something called mind at large. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Mm-mm.
No, it's like he had a mescaline trip, and the only way he could make sense of it, he was like, okay, so there's a part of our brain that is connected with the entire universe. Like that's the only way he could make sense of it. He was just like, that there's something there that connects us with the entire universe. We can access it, but when we are sober and we have to be like concerned with our survival and like predators and shit like that, we have to switch it off because to go there, you have to like lose touch with your body. But I
Yeah.
feel like we're kind of going towards this path where like technology is going to like look after all of our base needs. Survival is not going to be a factor anymore, and we're just going to be like there, like permanently. Like that will be our
Yeah.
reality.
Dude, yeah, that would make sense. I can definitely get on board with that idea because yeah, I've noticed even in my life, like the whole idea of like spirituality and stuff is like I feel like we have this perception that you just disregard your physicality, and then that's how you get there. But
Right.
in my life, the times when, like, I've been more comfortable, it's been way easier to get to those spaces. So
Yes.
I do kind of think, like, yeah, that it's about transcending your physical needs, not just through like technology and stuff. Probably, it's probably right.
Yeah. I would, if I had to guess, I'd say that's where we're going. So that's why I'm not like so resistant like to like technology, like a lot of people in the spiritual community are. I feel like
Yeah.
it's kind of like taking us there. Um,
Does that make you sympathetic toward like the idea of a universal basic income? And people have been talking about that a lot. It seems
uh,
weird to me, but
yeah, yeah. See, I stay out of politics like pretty much
yeah, yeah. Well,
altogether.
yeah. I don't pay much attention to politics, but that idea is an interesting one, because technology is so advanced, it is taking care of all the needs. It's
Yeah.
our base needs. It seems like if we can keep it going the way it is.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't know.
if human, I think the problem with that is kind of how people are right now, because
Yeah.
we're kind of rewarded with our ego, and we like to have assets to express our worth, and and kind of show off and stuff like that. I feel like that's also kind of a step in our evolution. Like, how religion once upon a time was that main motivating factor for most people. It still is, I guess, for a lot of people to be
Yeah,
good.
yeah. At
Like,
least in America, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, my brother's very intensely Christian, and he became intensely Christian after like a life full of like crime and just like
Wow.
darkness, and there was a lot of like badness in my brother's heart, and eventually he found God, and it
Yeah.
turned him around because he needed that. He needed God for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
um and I think, like, I don't want to just like say, religion is just like this thing to keep people
Yeah.
good and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But I think for a lot
Yeah.
of people, it does also serve a purpose of just being like a motivating factor to keep people good. Like the fact that you've got this thing that's judging you, and if you're not good, you're getting judged. Like, that keeps a lot of people straight. And then I think the next step after that for some people, if they let go of religion, they still needed that, because in the heart of us, we've got this like animal that wants to
Yeah.
survive, and it wants
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
and that's
Oh,
where
and dominate.
and
Yeah.
dominate. Yeah, exactly. Dominate, take over. And I think that's where the ego comes in. And the ego is kind of like, um, it's motivating us to be a good member of the community by
Hmm.
getting lots of money. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if you do a lot of good for people, you can get money. You can be, you can be famous. You can be like blah blah blah. All this stuff that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And that's why I think like that's the next step, the next set of training wheels. And then after that, once we learn to like let go of our ego, then we could probably do like universal basic income, where everyone's just getting like
Yeah.
the same income, and we're like, okay, we're just being good because it's for the sake of being good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. In like the next 10,000 years or so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some shit like that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always wonder what it is that makes some people that way. Cause I have, tons of people around me that seem to cling to religion in a way that it almost is like a life raft. It's like, no, if I don't do this, I really will become a monster. And I've never understood that. I don't believe it. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like that could possibly be true. I don't mean religion in like the true sense where it's like a relinking back to source. I mean like
Yeah. Yeah.
dogma basically. It's like people cling to it. I've always been like really confused by that. I don't understand how that. Like, I'm curious about your brother. Like, what is it that it gave him? Yeah, I don't know what he subscribes to religiously, but like I'm curious. Like, what is it about that rigid structure? I imagine it's a pretty rigid thing with him.
It is. It's very rigid. I think so it probably gave a meaning.
Yeah.
And I think he had a meth psychosis. So he was smoking meth for a couple of years, and got
Okay.
into a really, really dark headspace.
Yeah. Geez.
Yeah. And then, like, I was out of touch with him for a long time. And then finally he reached out when he was like at like the peak of this. And so, me and my dad came and we grabbed him and pulled him out of his house, and just kind of um try to get him straight. And he did. He went to a mental hospital and like started doing some work. But there were a lot of beliefs he'd now had, because he'd started seeing some like insane shit, and the mind was going like full on, like he's talking to TVs and all that sort of stuff that comes along with meth.
Yeah, it
And
seems like a lot of time. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, keep
no, no,
going.
no, you're okay. It's all of that stuff. And so his, belief in reality had changed, but there was no framework for this new belief. And he happened to just like be led to a church during this time, and they started talking to him about demons and, possession. And he could really relate to this because of his meth
Yeah.
experiences. He believed there was a dark entity that was haunting him. Um,
Uh,
yeah, so that was it. That, like, he just attached that church, and I think then, because he started, listening to the rigid framework and was getting rewarded for it. You know what I mean? Like, he's not like,
yeah.
you
Yeah, you
know,
definitely do. It's weird. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, especially somebody like my brother, who, if he doesn't abide by that, he's going to go off the rails. So
Yeah.
yeah, he started seeing rewards for living a rigid life, and then, oh well, this is the product of God, and so just kind of reinforced everything, and so now he's, yeah.
It's interesting how powerful those kinds of people can be, especially when they have that kind of a structure. Like it's
Mm.
like it unlocks something inside of them. It is pretty bizarre, like the good that they can do for the people around them. It can be so intense. Like you see that a lot with like drugs like that, like meth or like I don't know, heroin and stuff. I don't know why, but those dirtier drugs or whatever, they seem to lead people to a lot of the time a really rigid religious structure. I've seen that a lot.
Right.
It's very interesting. I mean, yeah, obviously, I've never had a meth psychosis. I don't know. That's got to be life changing. I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would dare say it's just like, that's going, so something that is kind of set in stone is probably going to appeal to you more than just like be good for the sake of being good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you're being led to like do heroin or ice, you've got a lot of self-destructive tendencies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you need like a framework to actually keep you out of there, because otherwise you don't, like, half the thoughts you have that you think are good are going to be naturally just dark, because that's, they led you to that, to that bad path anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so intriguing. It makes me wonder if I'm just like yeah, just one of these people that has no real grounding in the world, because it's just like I've never been that way. I don't feel like I need that kind of religious like rigid structure, but like the people that do are generally super powerful people. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Once they get on a good track, it's really interesting.
When you say like super powerful, like, what do you mean?
Well, I just mean like they're very effective people a lot of the time. I've noticed, you know what I mean? Like once they've found a path like that, the not just like they by contrast to how they were before, a lot of the time they become like super powerful, like business people or
Oh yeah,
like they affect a lot of change a lot of time. It seems
yeah,
like.
yeah. I mean,
I'm curious what
well, I think there's a lot of good stuff in the Bible. Like, I think if you were to abide, like if you went to a church and you started listening to what they say, like a majority of what you're going to be doing is going to be helping you. It's going to be good, you know.
that is true, yeah.
And if you're
But
not,
but that
sorry, go
sorry,
on.
but isn't that weird though? Because that's just like the reason that is because all those people, it's not like they obey the Bible, religiously. Nobody ever does. It's literally the reason that it is because it's just a group of people that have decided to be good just because being good is good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They just
yeah.
happen to have like these ideas that I don't know. It makes it. I don't know. It's such an interesting thing. It's fascinating. I grew up around it, so I think about it a lot.
Well, I don't know about you, but for me, I feel like I get slowed down a lot by like doubt. Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
that's something you have as well.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean? I guess maybe if you could
Uh,
unpack that a little bit.
like when I want to make a decision to something, I'll think about it for too long, probably,
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I
yeah,
feel like that's maybe something that religion could help cut out a bit. It's like the answer's there in the Bible.
yeah,
And
yeah. No, that's a good point.
for them, if the answer's not in the Bible, a lot of the time it's just evil. Like a
Yeah,
lot of the time I notice with my brother, if there's no opinion on it in the Bible, then he doesn't want anything to do with it. Like, he doesn't want anything to do with blood transfusions, anything like that. Like, he is like old school, 100%. What's in the Bible is how I live my life. And so that's
yeah,
why, for a lot of us, um, we can't live that life, because like we want, like, I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, I believe that there's a heart to the Bible that would probably have some truth. You know what I mean? Like,
mm,
there's a soul there which is good. You know what I mean? It's God, it's goodness. But
yeah,
how that manifests itself in reality changes over time. And so a lot of us have to, explore the unknown and be good and risk being led astray, in order to kind of update what good looks like in this day and age. Otherwise, we don't evolve.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so that's the thing. It's like it's two paths. You could choose to like follow that life without doubt, and then you could, you know, just reinforce the message of the Bible, or you could just try and explore new territory. And, you know, that's why I think I can't subscribe to it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it was written by spiritual geniuses. I'm pretty convinced of that. It really was, but
Oh,
but they
yeah.
were people, you know, they were also people. It's
Yeah.
there is something to be said for that certainty that it gives a lot of people, though, and it
Mm.
can be a good thing, but it can also be super destructive. You know, obviously, like
Yeah, of course.
if you're
Definitely.
super convinced of ideas that are just wrong, that's not going to lead you down a good path. You know.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's why I think I couldn't follow it, because, you know, you need to update it basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are some really interesting philosophical arguments for that. Like we should be able to tell what's good and if it seems like it's not good, but we're just doing it because the Bible said it. It's I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
a really interesting debate, but
It's not really
it can
free
be
will then. You're not really being good for, like, you don't really have free will. You should be
yeah.
able to, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what do you think of Jesus though? Like, what are your
Oh
thoughts on
man.
Jesus?
Oh geez. I've been trying to find Jesus in a lucid dream for like many months now. It just hasn't worked. It just
Really?
doesn't happen. I don't know. It doesn't show up. I don't know why, but
Funny.
but um man, I have not read the New Testament like thoroughly in years. Like I said, I grew up in a pretty fundamentalist household, and I don't know, I actually haven't become reacquainted with what is written about Jesus in the Bible since really, you know, I guess deconstructing or whatever, like just rethinking all my beliefs about it.
Hmm.
But I don't know. There's some interesting ideas about what Jesus was doing in his lost years or whatever. I think he was basically a mystic for sure. Like some of the things he was, some of the stuff he says about him and God. Oh man, that's such a rabbit hole.
Hmm.
It's like I think most of what Jesus said was basically mystical truth. If you read it with that framework in mind, it's so obvious. Like
Hmm.
it's so obvious. Like the cognitive dissonance you have to read it the way a fundamentalist reads it is bizarre. It's like nothing really
That's
makes
funny.
any sense. But if you
Yeah.
read it from a mystical perspective, it's like oh, that man was a genius for sure. That's
Yeah.
incredible
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I'd agree with you there.
Whoever he was, yeah,
Yeah. I think so as well. I think like there's a, as I was saying before, like with the language thing, it's like language is limited. And so like you got Jesus who's like trying to communicate this stuff through language. And then, you know, if you take it too literally, you kind of get trapped in that, like that miscommunication or mistranslation. It's like if you had like a, I say this quite a bit, but if you had like a super old wise guy talking to like a 5-year-old boy or a 6-year-old boy, and he's like telling him like the meaning of life, he may
yeah,
use like really basic words that that young boy understands, but that boy is not going to know a fucking thing that the old man's saying. He thinks he will, he thinks
yeah,
he will understand, but he doesn't. And
yeah.
like the gap between, you know, young boy and old man is way less than the gap between like man and God, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. But it's
Yeah.
still in there too. That truth is actually still there. You know what I mean? It's just
Mm,
like you got to keep going, like you're looking at it after you've evolved a bit. You know, it's amazing that it can be so misconstrued, but then the truth, the core of it is also still there. It's pretty bizarre. In
exactly.
these all these old books, you know, the Bhagavad Gita and even the Quran, some of it, you know. I haven't
Yeah,
read all of
totally.
it, but
Totally. I think
yeah.
there's just like awakenings. Like there's a lot of people who have like this chosen person experience on psychedelics, for instance. And
Oh,
they like literally they'll run around believing that they're the Messiah.
yeah.
But
That
you know,
sounds bizarre.
it's
Fuck.
intense.
That
But
sounds nuts.
the
Yeah.
reason is because they're in touch with that sort of mindset, I think, where they're like, love is everything, like fear is, you know, an illusion sort of thing. And,
Yeah.
you know, I think it, because of the fact that we're humans, a lot of these guys will actually come out of it and be like, no, I am the chosen one. And then some people will come out of it and be like, okay, that's like a state that you can just access sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, like it's a super common place. So I wouldn't be surprised if like Jesus was just there permanently and he was just like, yeah, love is the answer. Like God, I am the way, the only way, and that is love. And
Yeah.
that is, you know,
The I
forgiveness.
am. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
The I am. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
those I am statements are those are
yeah.
powerful. They really are.
Intense.
It's interesting.
Exactly.
Um
Yeah. Um, oh, sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was just looking at that time. I don't know if that's what we got or what,
Yeah,
but
we got 1 minute left. I feel like I could keep chatting for like ever, but I reckon we got to end it at some point. Let's do. I'd be down for a second podcast eventually for
oh
sure.
yeah, I'd be down.
Chat.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, this has been
Yeah,
really fun.
yeah, it was great chat. Where can people find you, dude?
I'm on TikTok pretty much. That's what I've been. I should probably like move over to YouTube too, probably. You don't really get paid that much on TikTok. It'd be kind of cool to monetize something, but I'm
Yeah,
on TikTok. You can follow me, Brubal Noob. I'm on TikTok and I'll be making more recently. I've been pretty busy. I haven't made a lot lately, but I'll be getting back into it for
oh
sure.
yeah, yeah, fuck yeah. All right, awesome guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all soon. Peace.
Awesome. See ya. Thanks, man.